Regular meeting of the Rushford Peterson School Board is Monday, February 26, 2018. We are in the forum room of the Rushford Peterson School. Could we have a roll call, please?
Valerie Howe. Here. Joyce Iverson. Here. Julie Cope. John Linder.
Here.
Dean Merrill.
Here.
John Pettit.
Here.
Bonnie Pinson. Here. Anna Chose.
Okay, thanks. Next will be the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next will be the adoption of the agenda. I understand, Director Iverson, you had a request to
just revisit the agreement with David King and in light of discussions with City Council.
Okay.
that be their old business.
Yes.
I'll make that B, old business 7B. Okay, anything else? Mr. Rivera, anything?
Oh, yeah, 7.
Right.
I think, is this, can I make a motion to pull under F personnel, pull number 5 out to the consent agenda?
Okay. Okay, anything else? Okay, with those additions and addendums, for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Clinton makes the motion.
Motion by Clinton.
Second, by Merrill.
There we go. Okay, next on the agenda is public comments are heard, limited to 5 minutes per person. Okay. Okay, first appears Mr. Tony Hayden. You wish to address the board?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Tony Hayden from the Hart area. I'm here to address the changes in the staffing in the Ag and Industrial Tech Department. At a past board meeting, a decision was made to accept the resignation of an Ag instructor, Heidi Dunn. At tonight's meeting, it's being recommended by administration that a business instructor be hired in this opening, leaving one full-time instructor for the Ag Industrial Tech Department for next year. Did you know that more students have competed in state and national competitions for Rushford Peterson FFA than any other activity in school? Did you know agriculture is the #1 industry in Minnesota? Did you know 25% of Minnesota's workforce is tied to ag? That's #1 in the state as well. This past Wednesday, Principal Tim informed me in a phone conversation that a full-time business instructor was hired in lieu of an Ag Industrial Tech teacher. Later in the week, Director Joyce Iverson informed me that the district was going to explore a part-time industrial tech teacher. I'm not against the business program, but not at the expense of the Ag Industrial Tech program. The administration clearly does not feel the importance or understand that this is largely an ag community. Actions speak volumes. According to the state of Minnesota Department of Education, an ag teacher can teach agricultural classes, but also a whole host of industrial tech, business, and science classes. Why limit our options as a district on what classes are taught? With 2 full-time ag teachers, each teacher can teach to their strengths. If one teacher is great in woodworking and animal science, and one teacher is great in welding, horticulture, and business management, let's take advantage of that and have more great options as a district to benefit According to the National FFA and the State of Minnesota FFA organization, to be a member of the FFA, a student must be enrolled in an ag class. That means a class taught by an ag licensed instructor. This year, my daughter was fortunate enough to be enrolled in beginning woodworking, taught by Mr. Lynn. By doing so, she could join the FFA and compete in contests. She has now earned a trip to the Minnesota State FFA convention. If beginning woodworking was taught by an industrial tech teacher without an ag license, she would not have qualified to be an FFA or go to the state competition. Come next fall, if there's only one ag teacher at Rushford Peterson, the opportunity to join the FFA may not be a reality for some. Please remember, FFA is about three things: classroom instruction, career development events, which is comprised of 30 judging contests, and supervised business experiences where the instructor helps guide a student through managing their own business, such as raising cattle and mowing lawns. By reaching out to younger potential members and making it possible to join at the 7th grade level, the FFA has a better opportunity to be a fruitful experience. We once had a thriving program, and I'd love to see that built back up again. What will it take? First of all, a wide array of ag classes, 7 through 12. Secondly, a good team of ag teachers to rally the kids. I feel that it has been a hiring process that has been a real hindrance when it comes to finding the right fit for the ag department. We have one great ag teacher left. Let's look for someone who will complement the program and one who can really connect with the students. I, along with many of these people here, are recommending the board maintain 2 full-time ag teachers in order to maintain the volume and frequency of industrial tech and ag classes offered. Once again, let's not reduce the opportunities for our kids to expand the possibilities for the futures. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haddon. Next, Mr. Doug Lynn, you wish to address the board.
Doug Lynn, Rushford, and I've got children in the district, I've got children that graduate from the district. It's also my pleasure to have the opportunity to speak to the board tonight. I'm very disappointed in the district's decision to hire a business teacher to replace an agriculture teacher and FFA advisor. I had a very good discussion with Mr. Ayler prior to the interview process, and both agreed when I said we were doing a huge disservice to students to encourage them all to seek 4-year degrees and should be encouraging more of them to attend a vocational program. To prepare students for a vocational program, we have had a very good offering to classes to introduce them to what is available. The only way to continue to offer the same classes and with the same frequency that we're currently offering them is with an agriculture education teacher. RP Schools has had numerous students that have participated in the School to Work program and have continued on after their graduation to make that field a career choice. Furthermore, it's been beneficial to our local economy as well. By posting for 3 positions, does that mean that we're still going to offer employment in the ag ed and the industrial technology areas? If not, why was it multiply offered, and have we advertised for an ag teacher when we were hiring a math teacher to be consistent with this posting we just had? It is my understanding that an ag ed teacher can teach agriculture, industrial technology, and business classes and be an FFA advisor when the other 2 postings cannot teach all 3 areas nor FFA, which gives us further reason to hire an ag ed instructor. I believe our FFA students deserve the same ratio of coach or advisor to student as our other co-curricular or extracurricular programs. I feel living in a rural school district relying on agriculture or our ag-related business for a huge portion of our tax revenue, and then turn around and cut the program in half is a real slap in the face. However, there is good news. The school board can vote to not approve the business position offered and hire an agriculture education teacher to replace the one that has left the district. I ask for your vote to continue the ag program with 2 ag education instructors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Next on the agenda, Mr. Steve Heim, you wish to address the board?
Steve Iron, Peterson. I also have kids in the FFA program too, and I'd like to address the board here. Attention was brought to us regards to the ag program, going from 2 teachers down to 1. We as parents feel that the setback our ag program is viable to our future. The ag program is the most diversified programs to get a job in business falls in this area also. If the school district cuts back to 1 ag teacher, who's going to help promote the agriculture program? There's a lot of opportunities for these kids to do. Judging, wildlife, horticulture, leadership. These skills come from the ag sector, will be with them for a lifetime. This program has declined the last few years and needs to get reestablished like the surrounding communities. Has administration ever attended these kids' events? Community members are willing to support the ag program. If asked, they would be willing to volunteer or participate in an advisory committee to evaluate and give input in regards to finding someone that can do the job in an effective manner. Also, I would like an explanation regarding the FFA plaques that were displayed as free at the DAR auction. Why is FFA treated any differently than a sports trophy? Were those not taken, discarded, or saved, the trophies? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heim. Next, Kurt and Amy Lumen, I didn't say if you wanted to address the board. Do you wish to address the board? No. Okay. Next would be Lakin Lynn.
First of all, thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of the concerns that I have with the recent decision to fill our ag position with a business teacher. My first concern is how we plan to keep this individual busy during the school year. Being that a business educator was hired, I fear that there are not enough classes to be offered throughout the school year. When I started my undergraduate degree, I started out as an ag ed major. I know that there are many classes that can be taught by a person with an ag teaching degree, such as animal science, ag econ, electricity, and the list goes on. However, by hiring another person with an ag ed degree, that would possibly require a little extra help from our admin staff. For example, under the ag ed license, one can teach ag business or ag economics. Do the principles of business and economics change whether a business major or an ag ed major teaches them? No, the principles are identical, which is where the added help and support from our admin staff would be helpful. To explain to kids who are interested in pursuing business type degrees that whether they learn about economics through corn and soybeans or cars and sports, they are learning the exact same concepts. I don't fully understand why we would hire a person with a business ed degree and a limited teaching portfolio instead of hiring a person with an ag ed degree that can teach all of the same business classes that a business degree can teach. Secondly, being that we have decided to hire a person with a business degree, what are the plans to continue moving forward with the ag program that we currently have? From what I understand, we will be utilizing Mr. Lynn in cutting his current industrial art classes to fill the void that our admin staff has created. I have to ask myself, is this the start of eliminating our ag program within this school? Also, what other responsibilities will this new hire have? Especially regarding the FFA department. If we chose to not renew the contract of Ms. Dudley, who co-observed FFA, does this new hire resume her position or her responsibility with that and continue helping the FFA program? Lastly, I would like for you all to think about what classes will be taught and if they are age appropriate. I fully respect the desire to teach business within our schools, and I think it's important. However, I am concerned that these business-type classes will be heavily brought upon our middle school kids, who I would argue are not old enough, or in most cases mature enough, to fully understand economics and business models. In my opinion, these types of classes should be offered as electives to our 11th and 12th graders, who typically have a better understanding of these topics and how they are utilized in our day-to-day world. There are many kids within our district who have grown up on, worked on, or simply have had a desire to be a part of the agricultural industry. They see the opportunity for them to be successful and enjoy the various skilled labor and trade-type jobs out there. By hiring somebody with a very limited teaching degree, such as business, that significantly decreases the amount of potential required or elective classes that can be offered. I just ask that you as a school board think hard about if we're making the right decision here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lynn. Next, Grace, you wish to address the board?
Grace Lynn from Mark. Thank you for letting me come tonight. I've been involved in ag classes in FFA my whole high school career. I also am a friend as an FFA. I have learned so many things from being an FFA in ag classes. I don't know why I should take that as opportunities away from kids from learning these things. I just want to say it really saddens me to see our program get depleted, considering we live in an ag community. We need to ag teachers. Please save our program. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lynn. Mr. Colby Lind, you are next.
Good evening. I'm Colby Lind, and I was hired by the district in August of 2010. I have a license in agricultural education and work-based learning. At the beginning of the 2011-2012 school year, the Ag Department absorbed the industrial arts classes because of my strengths in the shop and the fact that my license allows us to teach traditional ag classes, mechanics, welding, electrical wiring, carpentry, business classes, forestry and natural resources classes, food science, horticulture, landscape management, and woods courses, as well as having the work-based learning component. It was brought to my attention that there were going to be a group of community members in attendance tonight to share their concerns about the decisions to let an agricultural education instructor go and replace that position with a business teacher. In all honesty, I wasn't sure if I should attend the meeting tonight or not. My fear is that by showing up, I could be looked down on by the board and administration because of the perception that I orchestrated the pushback from the community, which I haven't. But my other fear is that if I didn't show up, there would be the perception that I don't have a passion for the program and the chance that the community, the school board, the administration, and most importantly the students think that I don't care what happens. And that carried more weight to me. My concern is I'm not sure that our district needs a full-time business teacher at the expense of the ag department, and I just discussed that with the interview committee. My logic is this limits our course offering, especially when the ag license and the Minnesota Department of Education allows an agricultural education licensed person to teach business classes in addition to the many other courses that I outlined earlier. I'm not here to orchestrate the pushback from the community, and I hope the board and administration have enough professionalism to understand I'm only in attendance to show my support for the ag program and be available for any questions the board may have in regards to the ag ed department and our program, since I am the most involved of anyone in the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lind. Mike Hamill, you wish to address the board?
Yeah. I'm Mike Hamill, excuse me, from Hamill Equipment. This is our 40th year in business in Rushford, and I think I've been out of town for a couple of weeks, came in town today, and it's quite alarming decision because I think ag is the backbone of this community, and we need 2 ag teachers. There's over 200 ag careers, and with 1 ag teacher and all that Kobe's got to do, there's no way in heck he can let all these kids expose them to these different careers. Obviously, not all these careers are here in Rushford. I'd like to see all these kids stay in Rushford. Most of you would too, if you're taking this new school. But it's not going to happen. And I'd like to see that we need 2 teachers to have enough classroom time to expose them to most of these 200 ag careers that are out there. And I just think there's, 2,200 kids in Minnesota in ag classes, 11,000 of them, the way I understood it, talking to my cousin today, who used to be the head of FFA money raising nationwide. Some of you might know him. Mr. Ed Trundle from St. Charles. He was an FFA teacher in St. Charles. But at one time, Rushford and St. Charles were 2 elite FFA people in Minnesota and possibly in the future. And I called him. He would have came down and spoke to you tonight about how important it is to keep the second ag teacher here. Because he knows how important this is to our ag community. This is a tri-county program, and this is not the time to be, it's been weak the last couple of years here, but it's not the time to take down our, we have a model program, and we can get it back if we try. We got the school now, let's get a program back, and take away a teacher. This Kobe can't handle the thing himself. So I trust you guys. We had a wonderful club, so let's keep going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamel. Appreciate everybody's comments and for you coming tonight too. Moving on to the consent agenda, we have February 26th, 2018 regular monthly meeting minutes. Say A, B is donations, the amount of $1,500. C, February hand payables, wires, and payroll liabilities in the amount of $248,673.94. February payroll in the amount of $422,263.01. E, March board bills in the amount of $182,931.34. Personnel actions, F1, retirement of Mary Ellen Dean, elementary teacher. 2, resignation of Terry Pelzel, head girls basketball coach and junior high volleyball coach. The resignation of Shonda Riedemann, assistant volleyball coach. The resignation of Rocky Zong, assistant 9th grade volleyball coach. Item 5 has been taken out. Item 6, hire of Patricia Ebner, ECSE para. And item 7, hire of Joe Hatch, assistant golf coach. Any questions on the consent agenda?
Just like to take a moment here tonight to recognize Mary Ellen Dean, who saved the district in over 30 plus years, and so she is taking advantage of our early retirement program. So we're indebted to her for the years of service that she's provided us, and then to Coach Pelzel for his 30 plus years that he's been involved with coaching, being at volleyball or basketball. So very pleased to have those people provide those services and years of dedication to Rushford Peterson and the Peterson district as well.
Any other comments, questions? For a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Iverson.
Motion by Iverson. Is there a second?
Vincent, second.
Second. All those in favor of the approving the consent agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 5 of the consent agenda, hire of Joel Hinkie, MS, middle school, high school business education teacher, starting in the next school year. Director Miro, you wish to pull that out?
Correct.
Okay. You wanna expand on that at all, or?
I just think that it gives us an opportunity to discuss this a little more amongst the board. Obviously, we've heard the input from the people in the audience. I have a petition here with about 50 signatures showing support not to replace the ag teacher with a business teacher. So I'd like to see what some of my fellow colleagues think and have a discussion.
If I may, I'd like to give the board a little bit of rationale and invite you to ask questions as I talk about this. First of all, in the process of putting this together, we looked globally at what our district needs, and in that process, by hiring a business person, we can take some of the things that are currently on the plate of Mrs. Thompson, who teaches senior seminar and personal finance. So that person would be responsible for teaching that course. What does that do for us? That allows Mrs. Thompson, that frees her up to then, for us to implement what is called a school within a school, so that we're not sending schools out to an alternative learning center. So that's very critical to us, because right now, on an average, we lose about 6 students a year that get behind in credits, and then they attend an alternative learning center. So that would be paramount for us to have that. We're not advocating the elimination of the ag program. What we are is we're asking the board, and I'll ask the community members this as well. You're all well aware that in the last 5 years we've had difficulties maintaining an ag person here. And I'll ask the board, what is the component that's missing? The component with those hires that we've had is that they've not been able to connect with our community. So as we looked at that, we said, who has the connection? And as Colby clearly outlined to you this evening, he has that connection. And by the turnout here this evening, he has that connection. So we're not eliminating ag. We're asking Mr. Lynn, who clearly stated to you tonight, he has a passion. And I've told him this several times, that that is your strength, Colby. Grab a hold of it and take it. So the plan then is for Mr. Lynn to teach our ag classes. He is a licensed, certified ag teacher. So in the process then, what do we take off his plate? Well, the industrial tech is important courses to us as well. So we would propose that we would want to grow that program as well over the years. So we would start out by a part-time person in that position. Again, that frees Colby up to teach all the ag classes, to serve as our FFA advisor. So those are our reasons and our rationale for that recommendation to you this evening. We also have what I consider, we are very fortunate because we have a balanced curriculum, which means we have a core group of students that gravitate towards the college level, and we're one of the few schools in southeastern Minnesota yet that has all of the courses in the career tech field. We recognize that. We don't want to take anything away. And we also recognize that ag and business fit like this. They go together. So with that in mind, and the abilities for us to expand programs and maintain our ag program, because we have a person that is passionate about ag, he's actively involved in ag, he does an excellent job, he's got excellent rapport with them, he's built the, he's maintained our FFA program, he tells us that he's willing to make that happen. So let's embrace what he has to offer and put him in that position, in a full-time position. And then let's expand, let's look at how we can expand the industrial tech program, and then at the same time balance our curriculum by offering business. We also have a core group of students that each year leave our school, enter into college, and use enter into a major of business without any experience here at Rushford Peterson. So we're serving that need as well. So we believe that by bringing this forward to the board tonight, our rationale is very solid, and let me review with you again. We can create the school within a school. We don't lose our students. We don't lose the funding that goes with them. We can expand our ag program by the leadership of Mr. Lind, and we can have business and ag work together. And we can also maintain and eventually enhance our industrial tech program as well. That's our rationale.
I think one thing that I'd point out, what was the number you threw out there? There's 5 students at 7,500 when they leave to go to an ALC, correct?
We lose anywhere from, approximately 6 students on average a year to go to an ALC.
Just talking to some of the parents, I think you might lose that many students from K through 18. So that's a number you should put in your head.
And we would lose those students because,
Open enrollment.
all right, well, as we know, we live in America, and that's the rights of parents to make that decision. We would hope that they wouldn't reach that decision because, again, I'm going to emphasize again, we have a licensed ag person on staff that is certified to teach ag, that told you tonight he has a passion for ag. Let's utilize his strengths, let's turn him loose, and say go for it.
Colby, is that what you want?
Mr. Ayler and Mr. Tim and I have had numerous conversations. I guess I'll respond to that standpoint is I am passionate for agriculture. I am passionate for my job and what I do at Rushford Peterson Schools and my strengths. And we've talked about my strengths at the beginning of what I had to say, and I think that part is maybe being left out, is my strengths are in the shop areas, and the ag license allows us to teach there. That doesn't mean that I am separated from the ag program. At this point, our ag program encompasses all of the shop classes, all of the ag classes, and the work-based learning. And I think there's an importance in all of those areas. I enjoy hands-on in the shop. I think everybody that knows me knows that. I enjoy animal science. I enjoy teaching a younger group of students about opportunities we have in the ag department, whether it be the shop or in the classroom with ag education classes that are more traditional, animal science, discovering ag, things like that. Right now I've got a 6th grade class. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to have a 6th grade group. This is the first time in years that I've had any connection with middle school kids. And that piece of the puzzle was missing. That piece of the puzzle had a detriment to the enrollment numbers in FFA because by the time I got those kids, they didn't have any exposure to me and how I run my portion of the program. When they're 10th, 11th, 12th graders, a lot of decisions have been made. I think that, like I said when I talked, I do have a passion for all of agriculture, but I don't think separating out business and separating out the industrial arts portion of agriculture is really fair to the students. Because every student that wants to enroll in FFA has to be taught in a course by a certified ag instructor and FFA advisor. At this point, the plan that was laid out is going to cut down the number of kids that can be in FFA compared to as many years as I've been here. And that's the hard part for me to wrap my head around. I'm fine with restructuring some of the courses. I'm fine with having more middle school. I'm fine with taking on the animal science. But I think there are opportunities out there that include many of my strengths rather than narrowing it down to calling it just agriculture. Because In my opinion, the shop classes are involved in that.
And again, I want to stress that we're not taking him totally out of the shop classes. There's ag welding, there's ag mechanics, so he still has that opportunity. He has the best of both worlds. And he's indicated to you again, he has a passion for ag. And we want to do what's right for all of our kids. So again, I'm going to go back to this concept that we shared with you this evening to say to you, we also have those students that struggle with schools and academics, that we want to serve those students here. And we have a licensed person on staff to fulfill that role. And then we also have the ability to balance ag and business by hiring a business person. So we have the best of all worlds here. And so that's why we as an administration brought that recommendation to you. What is in the best interest of our kids? And we feel by having Mr. Lind teach the ag classes, and as he's clearly indicated to you again this evening, he has that passion. He's actively involved in agriculture. He's actively involved in livestock. He's actively in showing cattle. He's been instrumental in getting our kids involved in the state fairs, the county fairs. He does all of that for us now. So let's utilize his strengths and have him take the ag program and make it happen, because he has that ability to do that.
Can I ask a question? Sure. So Mr. Lind said he was hired in 2010, and then he eventually started doing the industrial tech classes. Did we have an industrial tech
We
teacher
did.
before that?
We did.
Okay.
And so at that time,
Was it also
to
the
give
ag
us,
teacher, or was it a?
it was an industrial tech person,
Okay.
a person certified in that area. So,
I guess from where I sit, I think the flexibility of having an ag teacher teaching business gives the most breadth to our students.
but that person, I need to stress to you again, that person can't teach the personal finance of the senior.
So we lose $7,000 times 5, that's 35 grand. What's one student cost?
It's not so much that we're losing, it's not, I don't want it to be a money issue.
That's what you're making your...
No, I'm not. I'm saying to you that we have the best of all three worlds here. And by utilizing the strength of the staff members that we have, we can meet and serve the needs of all of our students. And we're not excluding anybody by this. So that's the importance behind this program, is to say, we can do this.
Mr. Tim, do you want to add anything, or do you have any thoughts?
No, I think Mr. Ayler's kind of laid out the discussion that we had in regards to it, and like Mr. Ayler said, trying to do the best of both worlds with us. I know one of the community members commented on trying to get some of our students to take the ag business classes, and that has been, when we meet with the kids, we've tried to tell them that we've had ag business, that's the only one we've had, right, Mr. Lind?
Yep.
I think, and we've tried to get kids to take those classes there and try to push them, not so much that we push them, but just try to tell our kids, if it's a business class, it is a class, but even though they're talking, like Director Muriel said, they're talking soybeans and stuff like that, we're still business and business principles. It's just we had kids that struggled to take those classes, and just looking at our numbers, where we've had the percentage of kids that go into the business field and go into the ag field and the hands-on field. The interview committee, we interviewed and went through it, thought this would be the best for our district. That's why we made the recommendation.
I think it would have been handy if we would have known this prior to the hire.
I think Mr. Tim shared with you at the last board meeting what our concept and what we were rolling out to the board.
Okay.
So, because I think Director Pettit had asked at the last meeting if, with Ms. Dudley's resignation, if we were going to hire an ag or if we were going to look into other areas, and we explained our process of putting out all three and looking for the right one. But I think, yeah, Director Muriel, you had left by then, so I apologize you didn't know that.
So as the administration's overall view going forward, to have a full-time agriculture, a full-time business, and a full-time industrial tech in the future, as we have the building trades and all the special things that computer-assisted drawings, those things that a industrial tech department could offer our students? Or are we just going to go this far? Or what's the vision as we go forward on the things that have been brought up here?
Well, I think ideally that as we get our students comfortable with this, we want to grow all three programs. So we're going to start out by making sure that we have that certified person in the ag program, and we have had conversations about how to expand the industrial tech, and so we know that that's an area that we can improve on as well, and so we would look to at least start out part-time and then maybe grow that program and then support that in a full-time position as well. Because at one time, we were able to do that. We were able to provide those programs. And when Mr. McBroom was our principal, Mr. McBroom was teaching our high school business classes. So we had the luxury of having a certified principal teaching the business classes. Well, as you know, we lost Mr. McBroom, so then we had to eliminate those programs, but we had students. And I think last year when we do those senior surveys, we had 7 of our students declare business as their major. And as Mr. Tim clearly pointed out, all 3 areas are fairly balanced. And we don't want to put one over the other, but again, based on what we vision for our school district is that we can make this happen, because we have the right people in the right place.
So we have a person that is certified to teach ag currently, correct?
Correct.
So what, God forbid, something happens to Cody?
What happens to any teacher that we lose?
I'm just saying, you can shift other teachers around.
Well, then we have to go through the process of hiring and have somebody come in and interview for the position. So we would do that for any teacher we lose.
Okay.
I have a question. With this new role that Colby's going to have, is this going to be too much for one person to handle? I mean, running those classes and running the FFA all by yourself and not having the two? I'm just wondering if what they're describing here is more than a one employee position.
We've been very fortunate to have tremendous community support through the program, both in the classroom and the FFA. Sometimes that community support has been taken, sometimes it has not, depending on the personnel that we've had in place. Anytime you go from a one-person or a two-person department to a one-person department, there are changes and there are differences that will happen. Will it be more work for the FFA to have one advisor rather than a co-advisor? Absolutely. Will it be a bit of a challenge for me to look at what we can offer from a class standpoint through our program and allowing kids to be in FFA? That's a huge challenge for me to look at and be confident that we're not going to take a decline for our students. Just from the standpoint that the ag degree is so broad, and the other degrees that we've talked about narrow the scope and the ability to offer certain things. We may offer the same classes, but not in the same capacity. From the standpoint of allowing those kids to be co-curricularly enrolled in a course that is taught by an ag teacher that allows them to be a part of the FFA. That's my biggest concern, my biggest hesitation on the whole thing.
If I may, I'm going to interject as well, because Tony spoke tonight and we're very appreciative of the years of support that the FFA alumni has provided the district. And so based on that, if the need is there for a community, it's not limited. You don't have to have an ag license to be an FFA advisor. So if there's a community member that chooses to step forward and say, I'm willing to help out in that program, it's no different than when we have a volunteer coach. We have people in the audience here this evening that have extensive ag backgrounds. And as Colby said, it's a broad open area. So what do you focus in on? Well, in our area, what's important to us? We have an excellent, we have lots of dairy farmers in the area that have been very supportive of our school district. They're crucial to our, our economy here. We understand that, we recognize that. And I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. And I've told Kobe this on repeated occasions. He has the connections with our community. He knows all of these farmers. He knows their programs. He knows Hamel Equipment. He's worked with Mike. He takes his students down there when they do their open invitation for people to come into his business. So ag and business can work together along with this school within a school. Again, I can't emphasize to you enough that we have the people on staff that are licensed to serve the best needs of our students that we currently have.
Mr. Adler, is there another school in our area that has more than a single teacher, like Winona, Caledonia, any of the other schools around here? Do any of them have more than one ag teacher?
I guess I would have to ask Kobe that, because I'm not aware of any. I mean, I know that there are programs out there. I know that, various school districts utilize different things to meet their needs. So I'm not aware of any school districts that currently have 2 ag instructors, quote, ag instructors.
Well, and I guess where I'm going with that is, wouldn't it just make sense to access those other schools and see how they make things work, because they're doing the same thing?
We're certainly not opposed to looking at their programs.
Can I respond? Is that legal?
Sure, go ahead.
There are programs similar to our size of school that have multiple ag teachers. I don't know enrollment numbers of all these schools, but I know schools in our district that do have multiple positions in the ag department and or do have full-time ag teachers with full-time business or full-time industrial arts as well, because of the skill set that those teachers have. There are Goodhue, for example, just opened up for 1.5 ag teachers, 1 full-time, 1 half-time. Plainview Elgin Millville has had 2 ag teachers and a full-time industrial arts teacher for as long as I can remember. Depending on what the skill set is, Chatfield has an industrial arts licensed person with a ag degree as well, and a full-time ag teacher. So they're out there. But our school motto is always our best. And I feel that looking at the skill set of people that we have, I don't know that we need to be always somebody else's best and compare to other schools and do what others are doing sometimes either.
I guess I'm in the minority. I'm a business accounting, and I guess I wouldn't take a AA class for sit through talking about soybeans and corn. There's some kids that don't care. I'm also a parent of a special ed kid. You also have to think of them. If we could keep these 6 students here, because I had to leave work so many times to go to conferences at these places that, they couldn't be here at Rushford. They had to be sent away. And I had to miss so much work. And it's hard for the student to leave their school and go to a whole different place. It's a dramatic change for them. So I'm for, like I said, a minority, because there's some kids that don't care to take ag or do ag accounting or business. And also about these special ed or students that are really having problems. It'd be a lot easier if we could keep them here. And for the parents also.
So I think that's the challenge before the board this evening is to say, we're out here globally, and I am disappointed that it got out that we were eliminating our ag program. I was disappointed to hear that. I've talked to many of these in the audience here this evening. They were kind enough to give me a call, share their concerns. I shared openly with them what our rationale was, and that we felt that we had a good plan going forward. And I still believe that. I still believe strongly that Colby has got the strengths that we need in our ag program, based on what I've shared with you already, that we can serve the needs of those students that are in credit recovery, and we can expand the business program, and then we can also infuse industrial tech as the years go forward here. So as John asked about a minute ago, what's our vision for this? Ideally, we would want to staff all three. So if the board said to us tonight, staff all three, I can guarantee you that Mr. Tim could make a call tomorrow morning, and more than likely we'd have an industrial tech person on staff. Would we be having this conversation this evening?
Mr. Hayden, if I could ask you, when I talked to you on the phone, you had mentioned an alternative financing for a teacher, and I wasn't quite clear on what you meant by that. Would you like to explain that a little bit?
The FFA alumni would be willing to pay for FFA advisorship, of course, and we have in the past. We've covered those bills at times.
Covered,
The FFA advisors are paid money like a coach,
Right.
and we've paid those bills at times for the district, and we will continue to do that. But we will not continue to do it if we can't have two. And it makes sense to me to have two licensed ag teachers.
Okay, I wasn't clear on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If the district's in financial difficulties, let us know, and let people know. We don't know what the finances are.
We have a Rushford Peterson Foundation has a committee that has endowments. And, Director Iverson and myself are on that committee. And we meet, it's the first Friday of each month. And if you have any proposal, I mean, it might be helpful if you would come to that, if you had some thoughts on that, and leave that out, because that's kind of what it would be funded through the foundation.
Okay. We'd be more than happy to, but we need two full-time teachers. And position them where you need to position them. We need the licensure to get the kids in FSA.
So can I just ask for additional clarification? So if we don't meet your demands of having two ag people, you're not willing to support?
Not at this time without consulting other people.
But you're not willing to support somebody, if somebody in our ag community stepped forward and said, I want to help out and volunteer as an ag advisor or an FFA advisor, you're not willing to support that?
We will always support, you just said volunteers, so there'd be no financial support.
Well, but if, let's say that, you know how it works with volunteers, and the board knows this is too, volunteers turn into paid positions.
Not for a volunteer.
But are you willing, if that person...
We need two licensed aid people to have the membership.
Thank you.
Can't get the membership if the kids are in the class. If a licensed aid teacher, even if they teach industrial tech.
Anybody else?
I would like to say, it is unfortunate somehow the way that this was rolled out as, that the ag program is being eliminated, because I started taking calls last week and emails about people saying, why are you eliminating ag, which was, kind of blew me away, because I was sure that wasn't the case, and I still don't believe that's the case at all. I mean, we have beautiful shops and ag classrooms in this school, so it doesn't look like a place that's planning to eliminate ag. But obviously it's an emotional issue, and I can see that and I respect that. You know, for us, it's difficult because we can't necessarily be emotional. I mean, we expect our administration to come up with, their job is to come up with plans to use the resources we have in the best way possible. to help the most students and then recommend that to us. And so our job is to really be looking at the big picture, looking at how we can best use the resources we have for all students. So I guess that's how I see it.
I guess I just maybe add to that. I mean, I agree with that, the recommendation's important, but it's also, from where I sit, it's also important for me to make sure that we have students in the school, and I don't want people going to open enrollment.
Okay, anything else? Any press thoughts?
Is there a time deadline that we're facing so that we have to make a decision tonight, or can we delay it a month?
You're the board, tell us how you want to move forward. You can tell there's a lot of emotion in the room tonight, so that's up to you. But again, I think that the administration here has outlined for you as a board. We've informed you from the get-go what we envision to happen here. We've explained to you what we have as far as strengths of our staff and the various programs that we want to enhance and maintain, because we don't want anybody to think that we're not supporters of ag. Goodness sakes, I'm an ag person myself, born and raised on a farm just south of Canton, and I understand it. So you can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy. So I understand agriculture, and I relate to farmers, and I understand where they're at.
Merrill will make a motion to table it.
Motion by Merrill, table, is there a second?
Awesome.
Second by Iverson. Any discussion?
I had one other question I wanted to ask. I just was wondering how many applicants we had. Did we have a lot of ag qualified applicants?
I'll let Mr. Tim answer that.
We interviewed four individuals for the position. We interviewed one licensed ag teacher, or to be licensed with a graduate college, one currently licensed industrial tech teacher. We interviewed one business individual that's going to be graduating here in the spring. Then we also interviewed a person that does not have a teaching license that had expressed interest in returning to school.
So if I heard that right, you interviewed 4 and 2 were ag.
Two were
Education qualified.
Yes, well, the one was wanted to be licensed as a community expert and then would return to school to get their ag license, had a different degree in ag. And we had other applicants as well that didn't quite fit what we wanted. There were some other ag, some other business, some other tech applicants, and chose to interview forward that felt were the best fit.
Anything else? We have a motion to table. So all those in favor of tabling the issue till next month, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
No. That motion fails. Move forward with the item 5, the hire of Mr. Joel Hinton, a licensed business education teacher. Any further discussion?
I'm sorry, I'm going to ask Colby again. Can you put it in layman terms? I mean, I'm not an ag person. The way I see it as not knowing anything about ag, okay, we're still have an ag program, we still have FFA with this decision. So how is it, in layman's terms, you know, the concern about the 2 teachers, how 2 teachers down to 1 teacher, it affects FFA and you're not going to get as many numbers? Why is that?
To be an FFA member,
Yeah,
the National FFA organization requires you to be enrolled in 1 agriculture education course each calendar year.
and that wouldn't be possible with 1 teacher because we don't have enough classes to offer?
We would have half as many classes offered with a agriculture education teacher, going from 2 people with that license down to 1. We would have half as many. The other side of the coin is, I teach the School to Work program. I am the person in the district licensed to teach that. Through my coursework at the U of M, it's worked into the ag education degree, getting both the ag education license and the work-based learning license at the same time. River Falls Ag Ed program does not do that. South Dakota State's doesn't, Iowa State's doesn't, North Dakota State's doesn't. It's unique to University of Minnesota coursework. And that takes up one period of my day the whole year long. That program to me is extremely, extremely important from the standpoint that there are countless students that have gone through that program and turned that into a career. There are countless students that are special ed students that have taken that numerous trimesters, numerous semesters, numerous years to be able to fill their schedule and avoid some of the more rigorous top-end coursework that is required. And through their IEPs, they've been allowed to substitute that program. Nina Torkelson is licensed in the special ed version of School to Work or work-based learning, not the regular ed version. When I was in high school and took School to Work, and when I first started teaching at Rushford Peterson, School to Work incorporated resume building, personal finance, interviewing, just like the senior seminar class does now. And that was taken away to go into the senior seminar and be required for all students. So what our kids do in School to Work is they check in, they fill out learning objective paperwork to begin with, they go out and they're able to work at a job for either work experience and not get paid, and or for pay to go out and work in the community at one of our businesses. There are business people sitting in this room that have currently School to Work people and have had School to Work people. So my challenge is, if I'm the guy that's licensed in School to Work, I will fight tooth and nail to keep that program because of the importance for the community and for our students. Both the special ed students and the regular ed students, it is a huge, huge asset for a group of kids. That takes one period per day off of my plate to check up on those kids, to do the paperwork, to get everything put in the grade book from the standpoint of checking the sign-ins, seeing what they're doing, all the paperwork that goes with it. So that pares my day down to one less prep, one less class than every other teacher in the building, because School to Work takes that up. So now we're down to 3 classes per day in the ag department, and that's it. With 2 ag teachers, we've got those 3 classes, and School to Work counts, but those 3 classes we've got, plus we've got 4 more per day. So by going from a 2-person department to a 1-person department, we're taking away 4 classes per day for our kids in the ag area. Whether that umbrella covers industrial arts classes, what they call industrial arts classes that fall under the ag license, okay, which all the ones we've taught are, or regular ag classes, or we've taught business. Does that make sense, or?
It does, yeah.
Mr. Tim or Mr. Ed, either one of you, are you proposing that the ag position still have, if it does now, an extended contract, or will it be just a school year?
Currently, there's an extended contract.
There's an extended contract.
Yep, now-
So there's a summer program.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, because that would be another way to give kids an opportunity to be members by getting into that summer program.
And do you agree, Mr. Tim, with scheduling, as Mr. Lynn said, the result of this will be taking away 4 A classes? Or have you looked at configurations where that may not necessarily be true, or
There's
is
some,
that for sure going to happen?
when we went through the process, Mr. Lynn and I talked, and there's some classes in there that will maybe be shifted to other departments, similar to taking senior seminar away from Mrs. Thompson and having the new business person teach it. There's some natural resource classes that we give science credit, elective science credit for, that are offered by our ag, that could be offered in our science department next year. That's preliminary conversations on that. So some of those classes there are able to do that. And the configuration, Mr. Lynn and I did talk about changing some of it, because the course offerings, there's a lot of course offerings in the book, and we've kind of created the schedule historically based off of what kids sign up for. So Mr. Lynn and I had agreed to kind of talk and see what the kids are signing up for, and then meet his strengths as well, in terms of the metals, in terms of the welding, the electricity, the car care, and then also the ag classes that, like he said, the animal science. I'm creating a program that meets Mr. Lynn's strengths to give the best education to our kids. And then, as Mr. Ayler said, adding some of the woodworking and construction classes through part-time industrial tech person.
So if I understand you correctly, there would be no net loss of classes, they would just be shifted to perhaps non-ag certified teachers?
I can't say that for sure because, like you said, there's going to be a loss of classes, but we had this year, Mrs. Dudley taught a theater technology course because she had a minor in drama, so she helped build the set, which wasn't an A course. We always try to use our teachers' strengths to teach the best they can.
And did you just say the wildlife class, that actually is a science credit?
Yep, we were able to, you need 4 credits to graduate here from science, and we have 3 as their freshman science, basic science class, physical science. They take biology and chemistry, and then our kids can take 1 more. Some of our kids take advanced levels in the science department. This year we were able to add some of our natural resource classes as a science elective towards graduation.
And it was taught by the second ag teacher, but it can be taught by a science teacher and a teacher?
Did you look at options like 2 ag teachers and then a part-time business rather than the full-time?
We haven't looked at that. I know that in speaking with Mr. Lynn and Mr. Hayden on the phone, I know the big concern is 2 ag teachers and a license. Because I know when Mr. Hayden and I spoke on the phone, it was, are we concerned about the 2 ag teachers? Are we concerned about the ag classes? Or was it ag classes and shop classes in the combination? I know he said it was making sure we have enough ag and shop classes for our kids. But I think the concern of the community members here is that only having 1 ag teacher, even if we are able to hire an industrial tech teacher that has a different skill set, that can teach CAD, can teach engineering, architecture, stuff like that, not having that ag license limits the potential for kids to take. Because now if a kid takes, like Mr. Lynn said, if a kid takes if they take beginning woods taught by Mr. Lynn, that can count as an ag class to then be an FFA, where if they take beginning woods with a carpenter or industrial tech teacher, that can't count. So I think that's the big concern that's coming out of it, is that with the loss of a couple classes or the shifting of classes to not having 2 ag teachers but having different licenses, that then some of the courses can't quite fit in that arena.
And they need, did you say one class a year taught by an ag teacher to be an FFA?
Correct, and the biggest challenge that we run into and have run into, scheduling. Every year the scheduling gets to be a bit of a nightmare, from the standpoint that there's all these required courses that have to match in the schedule, and there has to be something that is an elective in an open spot for all the different grade levels. That's our biggest challenge, and Mr. Tim, I think he can agree with me 100% on that, is there's some courses that initially had huge numbers sign up for them, but the way it gets positioned in the schedule, it goes against, there's 15 11th graders that want to take advanced welding, but it's scheduled at the same time as a required 11th grade course, so now there's not one 11th grader that gets to take it, and we end up with 7 kids signed up that are seniors. Am I right, Mr. Tim?
Yep, and scheduling is, and it goes the other way too, where we've had kids that take a course, because it's the only open. Scheduling is a beast, especially in a small school like this, where there's both are, once you get outside the core required classes, even our upper level math, science, English classes, our upper level ag, upper level anything, where there's one class, there's one beginning woods, there's one pre-calc, there's one human bio, you name it, that something always has to give. And well, that's what we try to tell our kids, that overall, to organize what you have, and we're going to do the best we can. But being a small school and having the variety of offerings that we have is a great thing, but it makes scheduling very tough each year.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, we have before us the item 5, the hire of Mr. Levy. Does anyone wish to make a motion to that effect?
With what I've heard about that we will be hiring a industrial tech person, I'll move to hire Joe Henke.
Moved by Pettit, is there a second?
Second by Hal.
Second by Hal. Any further discussion? All those in favor of hiring?
Could be a roll call vote.
Sure. We have a roll call, please.
Valerie Howe,
Aye.
Joyce Iverson,
Brenda abstain.
Julie Cope.
No.
I'm sorry, was that a no?
No.
Okay. John Linder,
Aye.
Dean Miro,
No.
John Pettit,
Aye.
Bonnie Princeton.
Aye.
4-3, motion carries. Moving on to item 7, old business, approve the second reading and adopt the following policies. First, number 410, family medical leave policy. 2, number 413, harassment and violence policy. Number 414, mandated reporting of child neglect or physical or sexual abuse. Mandated reporting of maltreatment and vulnerable health.
So Joyce was kind enough to put in to meet with Laura and sought my input on that as well, and so they made all the adjustments that we needed to make sure that we're in compliance. We appreciate that. And then another recommendation that we're going to follow through is that the second Monday of every month, the administrative team and Laura and Joyce and Julie will meet to review the board policies to make sure that they meet and are in compliance.
And what time is that?
It will depend on your schedule, so we're looking at a 5 o'clock start.
Okay.
How does that work for you? Second Monday of every month,
Starting,
next month. I can give you the dates.
one moment.
April 9th, 5 o'clock.
Here,
Yes, conference room.
conference room or forum room?
Conference.
Joyce, you're comfortable with the changes?
Yes,
Okay.
so I'll make that motion.
Good. Motion by Iverson,
Second by Miro.
second by Miro. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the second reading of the named policies, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Item 7B of the old business, the Director Iverson requested that have further discussion on the contract with Mr. David Kane. You want to expand on that a little bit?
Well, I recall from our discussion that we made a point that we wanted to have there be an open proposal process, and that did not show up, either in the minutes or as a part of that whole process.
Okay, so.
And because I think that was one of the things that
Misunderstanding.
was a misunderstanding in terms of the city council as well, that we were already limiting, this to 2 developers, and I just don't think that's right. I think we need to have it open, allow multiple developers to make proposals, and then go from there.
That is what I understood.
Is that what you meant? Yeah.
That's not what the paper reported.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
but I do remember Dean asking that question.
And that's what I understood from the board as well.
yeah, because I had brought it up initially.
Yep.
I think even that night, when we were making the motion, I think we were still kind of questioning that.
To make sure that it was.
Yeah, I don't think there's any intent to limit it to a certain number of, that's not the impression I had either, so.
Where the number 2 came from is we have 2 known entities that have expressed an interest in the building. The city has a known entity and the district has a known entity. So that's where the 2 came from, but we're not limited to that. And David Kane's expertise in that area is he knows the people that are in that business and the avenues that they need to create those tax credits and whatever else they need to make that happen. So I don't feel we're limited. We didn't go with a formal RFP or RFQ, simply from the standpoint is if these 2 people are interested, the process, or if anyone is interested, here's the process. It's fairly simple. You don't have to go through a 90-day process of putting a building plan together or a business plan, or align your investors, come in and share with our facilities committee and a representative from the city what you intend, what your vision is.
And I think it's real important to emphasize that we want to work with the city on this program. This is not something that, we're not in the development business, we're not in the real estate business. The city has a vested interest in this, and we want to work with them and the community to make this as seamless as possible and benefit everybody. And we have to start somewhere, and I think that's why we went with Mr. Kane's proposal. And there was certainly no understanding that it would be just limited to a couple.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to make sure that was clear and that we were all on the same page with that.
Sure.
Also, I understand that the city is thinking about tax increment financing. And there's a very specific step-by-step process that requires. So I think we need to make sure that we're working closely with the city and everything that we do so that so that process fits, because that would be a benefit to the developer and would be a benefit to the city as well.
So just kind of.
And of course, the school.
Maybe related to that, last month, I think, is, I kind of felt that the facilities committee was not in the loop, and you indicated that there was really no loop to put us in. And I read the paper from the city administrator, and it says this has all been part of a plan. I've been working on this for 1.5 years. There's a gazillion meetings, there's a gazillion emails. So that's a little concerning that there was.
Sure. And the meetings that we've had, Dean, have been phone conference meetings, and we've been working with a gentleman.
That's fine.
Okay.
I'm available.
Okay, but that's what Tony and I did, is we narrowed in and we worked with this individual that was guiding us through this process. So there wasn't anything that formally came out of that, Dean, and that's why Tony's frustration was, we've had all this stuff and we kind of ground to a halt here, and then come to find out that the city had an investor out there that was looking at the property, and then they said, can we go ahead and do an asbestos assessment and a demolition? Yeah, and I said, if that's what the city wants to support, and that will be advantageous to your investor, and it would be advantageous to any investor.
So we didn't commit, did we commit to that? Do you
We
know?
did not, no.
So they did that on their own?
They did.
Not what I, you'd have to read the paper twice, it almost indicated that, we'll leave it at that.
Okay.
No, we didn't.
I don't think,
I wonder if it would be good to have our facilities committee, attend future meetings if the city would like to, need to discuss their studies or whatever they've done. Maybe it'd be good to have a facility.
Sure.
It sounds like they're kind of holding us to information we didn't have, so.
So the task that we're waiting until the end of the month, and then we will send this out, and David will disperse this information, and anybody that has an interest has 30 days to respond. And then at that time, the facilities committee, myself, and a representative or representatives from the city will come together and listen to what these individuals' vision is and what they envision to happen and how they make their timeline and what their plans are for going forward. And I will take part of the responsibility here for saying that there hasn't been anything formal until last board meeting, and now it's a formal process that we'll follow. And I will also take responsibility for using the word repurposing our facilities when it should be redevelopment. So, because that's really critical to say we're not opposed to one particular position. Yeah.
so they,
So that, and that, what you just said doesn't sound to me like we're limiting it to just two entities, which is what the paper seems to say. Okay.
that's what I read, that's how I interpreted it. I'm like,
So, yeah, I mean, and if more people come out of the woodwork, that's even better, you know, I mean, and that's when the facilities committee gets involved, get the city involved, and, I mean, it's gonna be a process, and, you know, we just need to start it and keep moving, yeah.
And if at some time it makes sense for the school board and the city council to meet together, then we know that we're all on the same page.
That's a possibility too. Get a special meeting, or at least the facilities committee, yeah.
Good,
Thank you.
thanks.
Anything else on that? Okay. Moving on to new business. First is item 8A, authorize Superintendent Ayler to advertise for milk and gasoline quotes for the upcoming school year.
I'll make some motion.
Motion by Howe,
Copeland, second.
second by Coe. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, 8B, new business, approve extending the deadline for the extension of the current bus transportation contract with Bernard Bus Service from the 20th of March to the 20th of April. And the committee met and just needed to iron out a few more details, and I think Director Pettit wasn't available, so we wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I'll make that motion because it's my fault anyway.
I'll second that.
But it's his vote.
And before you leave tonight, if you three gentlemen could stay for a minute, we'll get our planners together and get a meeting date and time.
Okay, all those in favor of extending the deadline by a month, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Item 8C, review and approve superintendent contract. And Mr. Baylor, anything you wanted to add on that?
No, it's page 57 in your packet, and on the back side is what the committee chose to, what we came to an agreement. Comes out to an increase of just over 2%. I appreciate Val and John meeting with me, and very productive meeting. Wasn't a lot to go around. I'm honored that you would give me consideration to allowing me to finish my educational experience here at Rushford Peterson. So again, thank you to the committee that met with me, and again, I invite the board to approve my contract for 1 more year.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Iverson.
Second by Merrill.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of extending the superintendent's contract for a year, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 8D, approve the first reading of the following policies. First one is number 506, student discipline and notice of suspension. Number 2 is 514, bullying prohibition policy. Number 522, student sex non-discrimination, Title IX, and unlawful sex discrimination towards the student report form. Number 524, internet acceptable use and safety policy and internet use agreement, student form, employee form.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Howard.
Second by Merrill.
Further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. 8E, athletic field enhancement project review. I think we had some information on that as well. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't know if we included that, did we? Or in the budget?
No, that was an email.
Yeah, that was an email from
Did
me.
everybody get that email?
Would you like a copy in front of you?
Do you have any extra copies?
We can certainly get you one.
Well, I do remember.
I prefer that you see it in front of you.
Okay,
So if you'll allow.
yeah, that would be.
Mr. Tim, would you be so kind?
Make copies?
Please.
Yep.
And then I'll bring them up to speed on what's going on.
I did look at it, but then I didn't leave it
Sure.
open.
I have to email.
Please note that page 1 is double-sided.
Well, that's taking place.
I don't need it now.
You don't?
We'll move to item 8F.
Apologize for not having that.
Begin with the superintendent's report. Mr. O'Leary, you want to
Sure.
add to that?
My report begins on page 98, and I'll just add a few things to that. We welcomed Joyce Carpenter and Alicia Gullickson as long-term substitutes here, student teacher, Kyla Lindell from Winona State University, so we're happy to have them as a member of our RP school family. Congratulations are in order to our boys basketball team and their coaches. They played Spring Grove in the section final on Saturday night and were victorious. And we'll move on to play in the state tournament on Thursday. It's a 5 o'clock game. We've updated you on the board members on our plan there. We will dismiss school at 12:30 on Thursday. And with the new format that they have at the state now, even if you lose your first game, you play on Friday, because you can play back. So that was our rationale for not having school on Friday, because we could play at
Noon or 2.
and that's virtually impossible, or it doesn't make sense to try to bring them in for 2 hours and then turn them loose, or even, can't even do that, to be honest with you, by the time you drive the city, so.
My kids thank you.
Yes, I'm sure they do. And it is not an e-learning day as well, so. We will ask our families to utilize that as a field trip experience for the family, so. And again, our congratulations to our speech team, they're just having a phenomenal year. They hosted an event here a week ago from last Friday, and they were successful. I was here to be present for that, and they finished in first place. And then on this past Saturday, they were in the conference at Chatfield, and they took second place, so they have done very well. In addition, I will pull Knowledge Bowl up there because we learned this afternoon, as a result of their regional competition, they have advanced to the state as well. So congratulations to our Knowledge Bowl. Then a note of thanks and appreciation to our large group music contest that was held last Monday. It was held at Fillmore Central. Our band performed at 4:30. They received 3 superior ratings, and our choir performed at 6:30, and they received 3 superior ratings. So congratulations to Mr. George and Miss Ingvaldson, and to our band and choir members. Just a phenomenal job. The school online auction, the storage shed in Peterson, we have emptied out the shed. All of that items are in the gymnasium over there. We worked over the weekend to kind of and get things lined up. Patty is assisting along with Dar's auction, and we will move forward with the viewing of that on April 25th, and then on Sunday, April 29th, with the auction beginning at 5:30 p.m. And I would stress to you again, these are only the items that were stored in the storage shed, and it's not a large collection of anything of significant value, but if someone can make use of it, we're happy to do that. I would be happy to entertain any questions. I will point out to you in my notes to you about meetings and upcoming events. We are hosting next Tuesday night an MSBA regional meeting here in the Forum Room, starting at 6 o'clock. So if you can be in attendance, please do so. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Taylor? Move on to the community head report. Is that yours too?
Let's, give me a second to get my voice back here. Let's move on to Mrs. Shepherd.
Okay, for my report, we've had a lot of different things for our students. We had an electricity presentation for our 4th grade. Glenn Crawford came here, set up everything in the forum room here, and it was wonderful. The kids were very attentive and very excited to hear more. And he had lots of different props and lots of opportunities for them to ask questions, and he did a wonderful job. So that's the first year I've been part of that. We had an author visit this past week, Mary Blackwell, and she brought 3 books with, and K1 had their presentation in here, and the author was just so impressed. She actually called Beth Nelson afterwards and just said this school just did a wonderful job. The students were very receptive. There was times she got the kids so excited, you know, moving, and voice is quite loud, and then I was able to bring them back and focus in on what she was doing. But she did a nice lesson for each of the group. Like I said, K1, the 2, 3, and 4, 5. So she approached a different way, showed all the steps of putting the book together, which was very nice. Our quotes of character, which was scheduled for Friday, we're going to change to the 6th, and I'll have the students who receive these quotes in my next board report. Our targeted services that Mrs. Markowitz has done for several years now, which is grades K through 5. She has about 30 students attending, and she is working with them to just hone in on their skills a little bit better, and the parents were very receptive for this opportunity. And to have this program, it was needed to have HVET as part of our summer school program for the elementary. And then the last thing I wanted to say about the elementary, we're excited that the PEP Fest, we're having a PEP Fest this Wednesday, and Mr. Tim and I talked about how we're going to get it so all the little kids can slap hands, because that's huge in the hallways, so we're excited about that. So I believe we're doing that for, who else? Is it for speech? Knowledge Bowl, we're doing for it too, so. Like I said, the students are pretty excited when they can cheer people on, so we're excited about it. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank
Any
you.
questions for the Shepherd? Why don't we finish up the reports first here, and before we go back to the athletic field. Mr. Taylor, you want to do the community ed?
Yes, I will. Thank you for allowing me to get my voice back. Youth Enrichment, Glee Club, and Youth Dance and Bottle Rockets. I'm not sure on that Bottle Rockets class, but scheduled to go on April 23rd, so we'll hope that they're a safe distance from the school. Sorry. Youth Recreation, Spring Soccer, again, she's put out the dates there for that, and again, we continue to see that, and I'll just tie in that one of the things that we have in our athletic field enhancements is to provide them an area for them to practice and to have as a soccer field, and it will be built to the specifications as a soccer field. Upcoming planning, the beginning already, summer is being highly sought after as far as activities, and she's working with our community businesses here to garner support for the summer recreations program, so she's doing an excellent job with that. Adult enrichment, you can see the classes that have been ongoing here, and we hosted one here last week, and it was here in the forum room. Well received, very positive. Anytime you have to sit through a 5-hour class, and they appreciate it and extend their thanks and appreciation. I had 2 calls that said, thank you for this beautiful location. So very, very nice to get that kind of feedback. Kids Club, obviously some highlights there, and they will be open on Thursday, but not open on this coming Friday. And then the Little B preschool, currently taking registrations for next year. And then they will be making their annual trip out to Johnson's Rolling Acres, and we appreciate that as well. And then the ECFE classes are going well on Mondays evenings and Friday mornings. And then they've got the annual Daddy-Daughter Dance scheduled right after prom on April 22nd from noon to 2. So lots of activities, and that will continue to increase as we get closer to the summer schedule.
Any questions on the community ed? Okay, thank you. Mr. Tim, do you want to fill us in on the middle high school report?
So it's not my report, I just wanted to, I know I'd sent you guys the letter prior to March 14th about potential walkouts. You guys got the letter we sent from the parents. I just wanted to say, very proud of the students, the way they handled it. We had about 150 students that walked out, stood by the flagpole for 17 minutes and came back in. Just like to thank Mr. Melvna and Mr. Hopkins. Before we had it, the week before, we brought the students in here, our juniors and seniors for a meeting, and then our freshmen and sophomores for a meeting. And Mr. Melvna and Mr. Hopkins did a great job of explaining to them why you would or why you would not walk out, and trying to make it that it can be for anything, and just trying to teach that political process that we go through, that the First Amendment that we go through, and then how to make change. So they did an excellent job. Our students were very, very respectful that walked out and came back in. So just one of those moments where you saw the world and what can be done in action in a very positive way. So just wanted to say proud of our students for going through that. Honor rolls, as you see there, we just finished up second trimester. Graduation rate, so last year's graduating class, we had 94.92% of our students graduated. That was 56 out of 59. We had 1 student drop out last year, and then 2 students were continuing their education. We're quite done, we're finishing up and couldn't get it done in the summer, and I think those students were at ALCs and we're finishing up at the start of this year. In the state of Minnesota, they're 82.68. Our Student of the Tribe Breakfast this year with the Trojan Pride Initiative, we've started something where we've had teachers nominate 2 students from each grade, 6 through 12, as just above and beyond students, just going, being respectful, responsible, safe, just being leaders throughout our school. We have a little breakfast for them, and the teachers that nominate them come in and say a few positive words about them, and their parents are at those, so just a real good time there. End of the month, next week, we have Neil Dennison come in. He's come in before, and he talks about sexual and dating violence, also about just dating in general. He's talking kids, can they kiss you is one of them, and then about harassment and internet stuff like that. So he does a great job of just teaching our kids some of those skills that we can have. And we break it up. We'll have our 7th graders, 8th graders, and 9th graders all separate. 3 different presentations that are very age appropriate. Letters will be going out to parents this week, letting them know, informing them of what will be presented. And it's about an hour each presentation. Like Mr. Ayler did mention, I stepped out. Band and choir last week at Fillmore Central received 3 superior ratings each. It was a very good thing for them. Our Fine Arts Night on March 8th, we've kind of been building up to that, kind of a way to show off all of the great things. We had our band and choir concerts. We had 3 individuals give speeches. We had work then during an intermission for our art, industrial tech, and our Spanish departments. We had stuff on display, and then we also had our advanced foods kids make some appetizers as we went through. I think Mr. Ayler, you probably mentioned too, was knowledgeable today.
I did.
Okay. And then, not part of my report, but just question for the board, as I know we kind of talked with this position here, and I know we're talking going a half-time position. Does the board have direction, industrial tech or ag, or just so we can run the same page as we're going forward?
Say it again.
Because I know that we had talked about having, now the next step here will be potential of a part-time industrial technology person, but I know through the discussions here, just want to make sure that as we put it out and go forward, that we're on the same page so we don't have it next month again. Are you guys recommending, or what are your guys' thoughts on industrial tech or a part-time ag person, or either or, kind of like we did now, to try to find the best person.
Having, I guess, if we could put emphasis on the ag teacher to address some of the concerns that we heard, would probably be well received.
Okay.
Yeah, if there could be a combination, industrial tech, ag, that would be great.
I'd like to see a full-time industrial tech. How'd that work?
I'd like 3 more
You guys are
English
paying
teachers.
for that one. What'd you say?
I'd like 3 more English teachers.
There we go. You guys are paying the bills.
If I may, I just want to follow up with something that Mr. Tim shared with you tonight, and I want to share what he emphasized about the fact that we were very proud of the way our students handled the protest. And I want to make it very clear that Mr. Honkin and Mr. Milsdahl did an excellent job of educating our students on what is meant by protest and what it is you want. And we did not dictate to students. They got to choose why they were walking out. The emphasis obviously was in memory of the 17 people that were killed. But if somebody said, you know what, I'm doing this because I feel it's an infringement on my First Amendment, my Second Amendment rights, that was their right to do that. They didn't have to necessarily do it. I want the board to be aware that there's another one coming up on April 20th. This is the anniversary of Columbine, and part of that national initiative is students are to walk out again at 10 o'clock. And then the second part of that is they're to leave for the day, which I take a difference with. We're welcome to allow you to step out of the building, do your protest, but we're not supportive of the national effort for them to leave for the rest of the day. Mr. Tim and I will work with our students, saying, tell us what an acceptable amount of time would be. But I would ask the board to understand, we're advocating you can do that, you can do it in a same manner that they did the last one, and then be respectful by returning to their class. I guess, based on what I'm seeing from you nodding here this evening, you're supportive of that.
I'm surprised that they would recommend taking off the whole day.
Again, it's just a way of students and being empowered. Yeah.
It's a school day, I mean, yeah.
It is.
I thought you did a great job too, like Mr. Tim just said, with having the teachers explain to them what they're doing. And I'm a big believer in First Amendment rights, and so I think what you're saying is the students do have First Amendment rights. They get to use their voice, but the school also has the right to maintain order and to make sure they're safe. So having them all leave campus doesn't necessarily sound safe. So I think it sounds to me like you're finding the balance between letting them state what they want to state, but still following school rules.
Thank you. It's good to hear that. We appreciate your support.
Mr. Tim, did you get the guidance you needed, or?
I think so.
More than you needed.
Well, I just want to make sure that we're on that we're respecting your wishes too as we go forward here to try to do the best for everybody.
I mean, ideally, it's nice if you can, you're even. If we had a new hire and there was a resignation, so right now we're even. And so you're talking about actually having another position.
Yes.
Possibly. So, I guess my question to you would be, do you feel that, is that necessary, or do you need to have that to be able to fill out the schedule?
A part-time person right now would, and as we've kind of discussed too, looking at, we've had, Mrs. Shepherd keeps tabs on it better than I do, about our open enrollments and new students coming in, but we've gained quite a few students this year, and we've even got some that are finishing out their school years at current school and coming next year. So it's one of those that hopefully we can get part-time here to start, and in a couple of years, as our numbers continue to grow, that could turn into a full-time position, which I think in a few years would be very viable.
Are there a lot of people looking for part-time teaching jobs?
We may have
My gut tells me no. But
Well, but there is a thing called community expert, and we have some of those here, and so we would explore those options as well.
And Mr. Ayler's reached out to other districts too about some sharing of that.
What is community expert?
Community expert is somebody that, let's say that they have a craft in woodworking,
Yeah.
and they are considered a community expert.
Gotcha.
And then they just apply for that license, and they can teach that
Okay.
particular course or courses,
But they don't
particularly
have to
with
have
woodworking.
that
Or it
degree.
could be an ag, you know, we're not limiting that. If some of our people would want to step forward, that would be excellent.
There might be some retirees within the community that are industrial tech people that may be willing to take on a part-time for a year until we can grow it, something like that. 'Cause I know two for sure that are industrial tech people retired.
Would you be interested, you think?
I don't know. I know one of them does a lot of subbing, so might be.
Okay. Mr. Beaverdorf, you want to give us your activities report?
Sure. A lot of it's already been said in terms of the congratulations to the success that we have in a number of our programs. Just to follow up on the Knowledge Bowl, yes, they did advance to state. That will take place April 12th and 13th at Craggan's, which is up by Brainerd. So very excited. We'll be planning all of that with Mrs. Walter tomorrow, so congratulations to her.
It's real tough.
Also in the middle of planning, of course, all the excitement that we've got going on this week. We're going to have that Pep Fest on Wednesday before the team takes off. They'll be going up Wednesday. Obviously, our games are Thursday and Friday, and with success at least one of those games, if we win one or both, we play on Saturday as well. So we're in the process. Pep van is going, fan bus sign up is going. We've got 2 buses so far, and with more sign up, we may even set 3 fan buses up on Thursday. It's unique this year. I don't know how many details you want, but because of our late game on Thursday, we're having fans sign up for both Thursday and Friday, so we already have 2 buses for Friday signed up too. Just because trying to play the game at 5, if it's on time, they'll get over at 7 or 7:30. By the time they eat and come back, they won't get back to you until 10 o'clock at night. And then to have the numbers for how many are going to go on the bus the very next morning, obviously that won't work out so well. So right now we've got 2 fan buses, Thursday, 2 Friday. Obviously our kids have that day off, so it's going to be great. Speech, I think we talked on, or you've heard how well they've been doing in terms of winning a couple of the competitions, including the Rushford and at Spring Grove. They finished first there as well earlier in the year. Just had the conference finish second to Cotter. Cotter won that on Saturday. And then subsections are coming up on April 7th at Cannon Falls, so that'll kind of wrap up their season. The rest of our spring sports are all just getting underway in terms of track started last week and softball started last week. Baseball did 1 week of arm conditioning, but their first full day of practice was today. And golf had their first meeting today, because obviously subject to the weather. Things look great today. High of 35 tomorrow, so if you watch the weather, we're having great indoor days and great outdoor days to go this first few weeks at least. But in my report, it gives all the start dates for all of that. First thing coming up is track, an indoor meet on March 27th, but then the first week of April, kind of everything else gets going. So I know it's been a long meeting, but I would entertain any questions you have, if you have any for me.
I'd ask you to inform the board on the enhancement we did for batting cages.
Oh, yeah. First of all, very, very positive feedback from our softball coaches and maybe a softball player over there. We used our multi-purpose room, which is our wrestling room / multi-purpose / adaptive PE / everything else. There's slashes in there because it gets used. We were able to install 2 batting cages in there. They're full length, which as far as you're concerned, it means baseball has a longer pitching length, so you need a bigger batting cage for baseball. So we have technically 2 baseball cages in there, but there are also 2 softball cages. So we can cycle in the kids. They can be just softball and have 2 kids going through batting practice, 2 baseball kids. The way the nets can slide around and move around, there's the ability to make it flexible space, so you have other kids doing different drills, all in that space. So that was all part of the project, but now we're actually seeing the benefits of that. So even last week with some bad weather, our softball team was in there and utilizing the space. So thank you for your support on that part of it, and we're happy to get that completed. So that was all done last Monday and finished up Tuesday morning. So
Any questions for Mr. Beaverdor? Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
All right, back to our item E, athletic field enhancement project review. We have some information in front of us.
Thank you, Mr. Tim, for running those copies off, and my apologies for not having those here for you. Phase 1, we'd like to finish that up, and of course, that would be under our new school money. We would finish top dressing the areas down there around the pond. We need to install a culvert area there to provide proper drainage at the end of our high jump and our long jump area. So as soon as conditions warrant, we'd like to be able to move forward and get that completed. And then phase 3 and phase 4, outline that. I would like to point out to the board on phase 3, after looking at some expenses that we incur because of our athletic field, we think it's prudent for us to move forward with the drilling of a well to serve our irrigation purposes. So there's an additional cost of about $28,000 for that, but again, we're going to save money in the long run. So phase 4 is outlined there, and of course these are rather ambitious because of the timeline and then the cost of the project. So as you can see, we're estimating about $373,000. To do that, I have given you the number that we have in operating capital, and we're very fortunate to have a positive balance to work with there. And then the new money that we anticipate coming in for fiscal year 19, and then moving forward with the utilization of those dollars as well. And then depending on how things unfold for us, and depending on if the board is, depending on where we're at financially, if the board feels that it's a good time to do it, we would move forward with phase 7 yet this fall, but we would push it out to the fall of 2020 just to soften that a little bit, so it isn't, again, that depends on where you're at with that. So,
Did you say something about a soccer field?
yes, there's 2 softball fields that would be adjacent to the ponds, and then there's a practice football field, and then there's a soccer field. Thank you for asking.
So we'd be able to utilize all of our sports activities on site then?
On site.
And the well, and I asked you about this, but I just want to be clear that the city is good with this, no permit issues.
We're following through and making sure that that is acceptable. Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't ask this question of Mr. Beaverdorf earlier. As you might know, or may not, my wife does teach at Caledonia, and so I get, or she gets emails, and she asked me why RP has already canceled the baseball schedule, and why we don't have enough kids. Well, that, she certainly got me alarmed. What's the deal there?
You're referring to the JV level, right?
I don't know.
Okay, well, yeah.
If it's JV level, then I'm really concerned because we had people brought that. That brought that up last year.
Okay, correct. So where we're at with position-wise, this is after the baseball coaches had their meeting with the interested kids last week, is they're projecting a number of 18, 19, 20, right, in that range for our 9 through 12 players. So that leaves us in a situation with not enough, the way the conference, and you're correct, this was last year, very similar, where the conference has a situation where they play varsity and junior high baseball at one site on a given night. Let's just use Tuesday as an example. JV would be at the opposite site on the same night at the same time, because nobody has 3 fields, so that they split that up. So you have to have enough numbers to have a junior high team playing, and a varsity team playing, and a JV team playing all at the same time. So it's a different situation than other sports. Based on our numbers of 18, 19, or 20 at the high school level, that's not enough to have 2 fielded teams playing remotely complete opposite sites. So what did we do? Last year we struggled to try to get games. This year I currently have on the schedule 13 JV games. So not on the nights that the varsity is playing, but on non-varsity nights. That was our struggle last year. We're more proactive about it this year. We've got more schools, and then I have an AD meeting tomorrow where we're going to confirm the details of those last ones. But we're in a very similar situation to GMLOK. We're in a very similar situation to Wabasha, except Wabasha doesn't think they can play any JV games. We have Crescent very interested in scheduling the JV games with us. Fillmore Central's in our same position. So we're low on numbers, so what do we do to still get those kids their at-bats, their fielding experience and all that? We have to go on non-varsity days, and that's where we've got 13 games. So what I've done in talking with our local ADs, yes, we canceled all of them that are on the same night as our varsity games, but we have 13 added on the non-nights. 20 is the maximum number you can play, so that's kind of where we're looking at here, is 13 games is a heck of a lot better than we were able to get, I think, 4 or 5 only last year, so.
But then I would assume that on the nights where they don't have a JV game, there is a varsity game, but the JV's been canceled, that they would go with varsity.
Absolutely.
Because their coach is going with the varsity.
Absolutely.
Instead of
Correct.
shoving them with whatever.
Correct, that is
So they'd be a
definitely,
varsity player
every
on
one of
those,
them, every one of them would be a varsity player.
and then they'd be a junior varsity
Correct.
one, and they could roll that around between them.
Correct, correct. And talking with the coaches, they wanted as many JV on the front side as they could, because if it is, whether you use by grades, if it's 9th and 10th graders that are getting that experience, they can then be relied upon when it gets later in the varsity season. So yes, they're all varsity players, but there's 13 dedicated JV only games as well. If that,
And we do a 7th and 8th grade team too?
7th and 8th grade team too, correct, yes. Yep. And the way that works, same with our softball. Softball, we're in a different situation, but similar. Softball, we only have 9 junior high kids right now, but they're gonna play 2 games every night. So they're gonna, our junior high combined 7th and 8th will play an 8th grade team and a 7th grade team. They're gonna get lots of games. Our varsity softball team will consist of all of our 9 through 12 players. And then we try to schedule right after that JV games, if it's, can we get a full game in, or JV innings to get more at-bats for those that didn't play in the varsity. And the softball coaches in our conference are very supportive of that. So we can do that for softball, baseball games run longer, and they didn't want to do it. As I shared with you last year, that was an attempt we did 2 years ago for both baseball and softball. It worked great for an RP situation, didn't work so good for everyone else. But softball is in a similar situation as last year, where they're going to get varsity games, junior high games, and then JV will have their innings or mini games after the varsity each night. So it's what you do with low numbers, and that's the challenge we've got. But are the kids out for baseball going to get a lot of baseball games and at-bats and fielding? Yes. Are the softball kids that are out for softball going to get a lot of at-bats and fielding and experience? They are. All 7 through 12 are going to. So, but I know it looks bad from the optics of it, of canceling baseball games, but if you hear the whole story, technically some of those JV players are going to play 20 plus 13. So.
Put that all on an email, John, and send it back.
Yeah, and if we're
I'll
going
be meeting
to
with Scott Sorensen at Caledonia tomorrow, and he's interested in scheduling, we're actually attending one of their JV tournaments, so. Anyway.
And as long as we're spending this kind of bucks on it, I would guess, no, I would hope that building new facilities for those sports are going to bring kids in, as you hope that building the new school brought kids in. And with these kind of facilities that we're looking at here, they better
I
just
couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely.
They better.
You just have to approve them.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
You're all forgetting about weather.
All right.
You said they're gonna get lots of baseball playing. Yeah, don't
I
say
know.
that in Minnesota, you don't know.
We didn't say when, but.
Yeah.
All right, I heard a motion by Miro and a second by Everson, is that correct?
Yes.
Any further discussion on the athletic field enhancements? All those in favor of moving forward as proposed, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, that comes to the end of our meeting.
Colt makes a motion.
Everson.
Motion by Coe, second by Everson. All those in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned.
Just for clarity, just because I know what phase 7 is that something that will be, that's the irrigating of the existing practice field and whatever, is that on your proposal for 2020 then?
It is,
Okay.
2020.
Okay.
And if you ever
We
want
will
to start
reassess this fall though.
and if you ever want to start a new athletic team of pickleball, you let me know, because I'm like, getting really
Were you in the badminton team too? Were you?
Yeah.
All right.
I haven't won a single game in either one yet, but
Pickleball looks exciting though, I mean, I watch it.
it's hard.
It's kind of fun when they had the, I think they had a bunch of juniors come off the last trimester, and they're like, oh, yeah, piece of cake, and then what? Once they learn the rules, they don't ever.
Record Patrick.
It's not as easy as it looks.
It's not. I don't know how some of these retired people can play. Huh?